All right, the amazing Steve Laffey, stevelaffey.com, back on the program talking about the craziness going on in our United States economy. I do hope people look into Steve. He ran for president, former mayor of Cranston, Rhode Island, does have a book out. Definitely we'll check into all that stuff in just a few moments. Steve, I'll tell you what, it's really crazy what's going on in our country right now because Donald Trump is over playing around with these trade deals, these fake phony trade deals that he never wins and ends up screwing the middle class. And we have a government that's shut down. There's no end in sight. We're on day 28 or 29 now. It's the second longest shutdown in history. There's people that are going to go without their SNAP benefits. Their Obamacare premiums are going to go up. This is only affecting, for the most part, the Trump voters, the lower middle class, the middle class people. These people voted for Donald Trump to save America, and he's not saving America. He's just screwing you right up the kazinga.
Well, first to the trade, let's go to the government shutdown first, because it's really easy to talk about. One, I have lived through, at the age of 63, many of these. I have never witnessed the lack of concern by either the Democrats or the Republicans. This happens to be one where Republicans control everything. So obviously, I'm a Republican, but obviously Republicans would be in control of whether it shuts down or doesn't shut down, right? In a sense. Second, it doesn't even make the front page of the papers anymore. Like when there were previous shutdowns, whether it was Ted Cruz making up whether he had votes in the House, you guys in the House go do that, and we'll take care of it over here, which is a total lie, and he looked like an idiot. But that was like real news. Now, the government's actually shut down, and it's not on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today or Saturday. Or follow, I mean, once a week they put it up there and give you some update, but it's almost like it doesn't exist. Yes, real people are being affected. It shows that in our country, we can't get anything done. Forget about what I ran for president on. We can't fixing Social Security. Are you joking? I mean, the interest on the debt, is someone kidding? So back to what's happening with trade, because this is like the total inept. We are literally like a third world country when it comes to government now. Like we don't, like it's impossible to even understand from someone who's lived, I'm not that old, but lived this long to say they're not even trying. Maybe it goes on for half a year. Maybe it goes on forever. Maybe it never reopens. I don't know. But the trade thing is sort of the embodiment of all of what Trump does. Just take, for example, let's just take trade with Canada or trade about soybeans or China, trade deals. Go back to trade deal with China when Trump was president, say 2019, 2020. Remember, he was always about trade and we were getting screwed. Even back then, we were getting screwed. So he signed this trade deal with communist China. Now, it never went in front of Congress. It was just an agreement, right? So they were supposed to buy a lot of stuff and do a lot of stuff. And if you look through the statistics from 2018, 2019, they didn't do any of it. Like they signed off with, Z was around, Trump was the president, then you move forward to today. So Trump is reacting only to what? The fact that farmers are turning against Trump, and in Iowa, there'll be midterm elections. In Wisconsin, there are Republican districts that are slightly Republican, slightly Democrat, and they're turning against the president, right? Because they can't sell any soybeans. So they grew these soybeans, and China is like, we're not buying any of them. So what is Trump going to do? He's going to make a deal no matter what. This is really the evil part of Donald Trump and what he does. He'll make a deal to placate these farmers because he didn't think through back in January, February, March, what would be the second iteration of what happens when he does this stuff. He didn't think through what would happen to copper prices, which are soaring again today. And we use a lot of copper in America, right? We need a lot of copper to build out AI stuff and data centers. He didn't think through anything. He just does stuff. He just said stuff. He just doesn't like you, Mr. Carney in Canada. So an extra 10% for your country, because I don't like that Mr. Ford up in Ontario who put out an ad that Reagan, blah, blah, blah. Don't get me started on that, because the people who run like the Reagan Foundation is like, oh, that may even be illegal. It's like in the public domain. What are you talking about? What is everybody? People say stuff now that no one has any idea what they're talking about. Of course, it's legal to put it up. Why would anybody be upset about it? It's only Ronald Reagan talking about trade. Like, it's one guy saying, we like you, America. It's like nothing to get upset about. But then Trump's put 10%, and he won't even meet when he's over in Asia. He won't meet with Mr. Carney. He'll ignore him because it's all personal with him. So unless you go kiss his ring, right?
Right.
which is the mistake the Canadians made from Justin Trudeau at the very beginning, who went to meet with him in Mar-a-Lago before he was president and kissed his ring, but then Trump still didn't like Justin Trudeau. So it didn't really matter, right? So all these things were actually happening, much to the detriment of Americans. Now, if it wasn't for this AI build out, which reminds you of what happened in 1999 with fiber and the build out of LDDS and lines and all this stuff that had to do with the internet, which did get built out. If it wasn't for that, our economy would be contracting. There was no other growth. We've had 7, 8 straight months of manufacturing decline in jobs. We now are producing because of the good job in illegal immigration the president's doing. We're only going to create 10, 12,000 jobs a month, maybe, and that would be fine, I guess, given what's going on with illegal immigration. But the trade thing, and the last thing on the trade thing is that, remember, on November 5th, to get at your original point about him just doing stuff, on November 5th, the Supreme Court will hear these arguments. And I'll say this to you again. I'm not 100% certain the Supreme Court will rule against him the way I was 100% certain that Biden wouldn't be the candidate for 4 years when he wouldn't run for re-election, which I was right. I'm not 100% certain, like on student loans, the Supreme Court would rule against him. I'm 85% certain that Trump will lose. And when if he loses with Republican appointed people, he appointed the Supreme Court.
Yeah, 3 of
ruling
them, right?
against them. All holy hell's going to break loose because, again, what did Trump fail to do that I said on your show, on other shows, on radio, when he became president for the second time? He had to bring all of this to Congress and get it into a law. But he refuses to because intellectually he's lazy. He won't do the work. He doesn't have press briefings. I mean, he doesn't have briefings from high-level CIA people every morning. He's too lazy. He can't listen to it. He's on Twitter.
Yeah. Steve, I want to go ahead. Sorry to interject, Steve. I want to bring this into attention. You know, as you alluded to this with all this trade stuff. You know, he just met with the Argentinian president who just won re-election. We gave them $40 billion. The IMF gave 20, $60 billion. What happened to America first? There is no America first. That's a joke. And then they're going to flood all the market. You just brought up the farmers in Iowa, Wisconsin. The list goes on and on out in the Midwest. What's going to happen when, again, they're not buying the soybeans from China's not. Argentina's selling China's soybeans. It's hurting our farmers. Also, they're flooding the meat market with Argentinian meat that they have foot and mouth disease in some of these animals. And Thomas Massey, we've talked about him before on the program. He wants to put a bill out to make sure that they label the meat. What country of origin is this meat coming from? They won't do that in Congress either. It's a joke. And that's why the lobbyists run the nut house, and it's not going to get any better soon. But talk about Argentina, because this is a big problem of what's going on in this country.
Well, let's take the positive. Let's take the first case. Argentina is trying to become a democracy, not a Peronist. We call it, the word Peron means state socialism and disaster and defaulting on debt. It's been going on in Argentina for, 80 years, right? In fact, they defaulted on every bond they've ever issued, I think, ever. When I say ever, I mean in 100 years. And they've defaulted 3 times, I think, this century. The government has defaulted. So they have a new guy named Milei. He's a libertarian. He loves Trump. So because he loves Trump, we're going to give him some favors and so forth, right? We get that, right? We do want South America, though, to be much more democracy, much more republic, much more less riots, more capitalism, et cetera, et cetera. So on that side, one thing. On the other side, they did make a bet. Now, this is Scott Bessent, the head of our Treasury, made the bet. We don't really know where he gets the authorization to do this. I don't know. There's a lot of things Scott Bessent's doing. I don't have any idea why it's a job of the U.S. Secretary. Instead of focusing on the $1.4 trillion in interest that we're paying, that is bankrupting young people in this country. That's why they're going to have higher real interest rates and not buy a home. He's focused in on Argentina. Now, to the end that Milei actually won the election, this time we're probably going to get paid back. But back to Argentina. Yes, we should not be flooding. By the way, just so everybody knows, I go to Safeway in Fort Collins. I know I'm not going to make it, if you can see behind me. I'm not near Fort Collins, Colorado, which is landlocked. But when I get back, I don't see any problems with the price of meat. There's major sales on meat everywhere. I mean, I'm not talking about the price of cattle. I'm talking about the price of meat. So this stuff has come down. So why he's doing this with Argentina makes no sense for the farmers, I mean, the cattle farm, let's call them cattlemen in our country. They now won't, by the way, they might have to kill some of their herds. This is not a productive use of our assets. If you want to say the $40 billion was money well spent because it got Malay an ally of our country versus a Peronist candidate elected, I guess. But now here's the secondary effects. Scott Bessent will feel free to help Ecuador, to help Nicaragua. Like they'll just be whipping money around when we don't have the money. And so this will actually in the end or in the long run, I think be detrimental because now the one thing that Argentina, not to bore people with Argentina, they've got to get out of their own currency and only use dollars. It's the only way. And Milei promised this, but didn't even start the process to do so. He needs to start the process today to use dollars for his currency.
But can we go into the corruption with this issue, and then we'll kind of, because we've been beating this like a drum, we'll move forward. But the corruption with this issue, Scott Bessent, who is very in cahoots with George Soros, that's another story for another day. But again, that $20 billion, which ended up being 40, okay, was pushed because Bessent has a friend named Rob Cintrone who put his money into Argentinian assets. And again, this is a pay-for-play scheme by the Trump administration. We make fun of Biden and the Biden administration because they were in cahoots with that oil company and Ukraine and stuff like that. But they're doing the same play. Trump, with all the money he's putting into the crypto, his family is making millions and billions of dollars of all the money that's in crypto. So this is just as bad as Biden, if not worse.
Yeah. So yes, it's way worse than Biden, by the way, because Biden was a small player in this. With his son was a great painter, and he selling paintings for. What are you kidding me? The guy couldn't draw. But so that was corruption, right? But that was small potatoes to the billions of what's happening with Qatar, with an airplane. I mean, we could go on all day about it. And Trump with the crypto stuff and this kids making money. But they're just saying we're doing it. And the dereliction of duty of any single elected Republican in the United States of America to even say anything about it, because they're afraid. What are they afraid of now? They're going to get audited. Maybe they purchased a second home because the guy, Mr. Pulte, who's a complete whack job, he's only going after Republicans. So there is no second home. And then finding out if they ever lived there because they signed a document saying it's going to be my first home, I'd be like, fine. There's hundreds of thousands of people who did this. Not me. I never did this. I don't have a say. But there's hundreds of thousands of people who did this. And lots of Democrats and lots of Republicans and lots of rich and lots of just people who just said, well, I'll just say this. I have a good intention. I'm going to be making my first home, but they never did. But Pulte's only polling like 4 people out of a list of 100,000 that he wants Trump to target because he hates them and Trump hates them. So the corruption, to end the discussion on that, the corruption under the Trump administration is in your face. It's every day.
Right.
It's staring you in the eye. And you fellow Republicans suck because you've done nothing about it. Lindsey Graham, the other South Carolina senators. I mean,
Tim
you
Scott,
name the Republicans who are doing nothing about it. Nothing. Senator Scott. Ted Cruz. Let's go on. Like everybody, you people are terrible, terrible people. You should all resign because it's staring you in the face, and you never would have allowed it under Biden. And that's the lack of the rule of law that we have in our country.
We talk about even the Doge cuts. What happened to all the Doge cuts? They just funneled some of the cuts that they made back into the military budget. There was no real Doge cuts. They threw Elon out.
If you can see the show, let's say $1 trillion looks like this. Hold your hand as high as you can, and they ended up with 12 billion.
Yeah.
1 trillion. The rescissions at 12 billion. That is an absolute joke. And that's why the Tesla guy got sideways with the president. I think and then he saw the handwriting on the wall and he left and he went back to Tesla and the stock went up. So there's no what you're doing in USAID. There are certain things happening. There is more deregulation happening that Trump is doing, but there are no cuts. By the way, just ask everybody this one question. Is there still the Department of Energy? There is. Is there still the Department of Education? There is. Will there be both departments when he leaves office? There will. So just add it up. Those two departments needed to go by regulation, by law, and they're still there. So Trump's not doing anything. The deficit for this year, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, says we're going to get the interest on the debt down to 3% of GDP. It's still at a 6 point something. It's not going, that may go down 0.1 or whatever this year, but we're still running a 1.8 or so trillion dollar deficit. The tariffs almost make no difference, especially when the Federal Reserve is losing about the same amount of money as the tariffs are taking in.
Yeah.
And the tariffs are a whole nother story, because they make us much more inefficient, especially what's happening with our allies. Don't think, by the way, Mr. Carney is not over in Asia, won't meet with Trump, but is meeting with everybody else to unload the aluminum we used to get at a low price. He's going to unload that. He's going to unload oil. He's going to unload everything that Canada has and never deal with America again, all the while smiling at the president, saying, we'd like to work with you and blah, 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 blah. And we're sorry about that. But then everybody else who's an ally is moving in a different direction.
Yeah.
The non-American direction.
I want to put the exclamation point here for the last question, Steve. Again, we just kind of alluded to it earlier on in the show, but I want to see what you think is the right plan for this. Obviously, no one's going to take your advice because they're in a place where no one is. These people are brain dead, and they don't give a shit about the normal working people anyway. But again, there's people that are going to be losing their SNAP benefits in November. There's people that are their Obamacare is going to go up $200, $300, $400, $500 more than it is now. There's people that are federal workers that are just living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of them can't afford what's going on right now because they've been out of work for almost a month now. What is going on? Does the president even see this? Is his ego too big? Because I listen to these conservative stations and these people call in, they say, oh, it's so great what the president's doing. And he's building this new East Wing. You're not going to go in the East Wing, to the caller. I'm not going to go in the East Wing. Who the hell gives a crap? Right. I don't give a crap.
Here's a little thing that people should know about the East Wing, which is $300 million done without any congressional approval. And it's going to look probably pretty terrible compared to the size of the White House. But when people say it's not being paid for by taxpayers, remember, if it's $300 million coming in from people private, it's all going to be tax deductible. So it's going to be $110 million of loss to the taxpayers.
Well, it's not even just that, Steve. Steve, those people want the favors back. I'm giving you this money. So again, this is corruption going on and on and on with the Trump administration.
It's a cycle of corruption. These wealthy people who, the guy who runs NVIDIA, all these people are doing whatever favor they can think of and donating because they're making $1 billion and they're going to give out $5 million. This is what lobbyists do. Just so you know, everybody knows this is what happened. Like, why do you think the drug companies are the biggest lobbyists in Washington? Because they say billions. They spent hundreds of millions. They say billions. It's just the way it works. And it's working 100 times faster under Trump. And to answer your question directly, he has no idea what any poor person would suffer by not having food stamps. There's no concern. He may say something about it one day. He has no idea. He grew up extraordinarily wealthy. His father gave him $300 million or whatever. He has no idea what anybody's talking about. He doesn't see it. He doesn't hear it. He doesn't know whether someone's going to pay more. Now, the answer to the question of Obamacare, again, we better handled by legislation. Like this has fixed, but it's not going to be fixed. It's just going to be this death situation. And I wonder what will happen. In November, we're almost there. In November, there's several things happening. And one will be the Supreme Court ruling on the tariffs. What will really happen? Will there just be major lawsuits? Will people try to get their money back they paid in tariffs because it was illegal? I don't know what's going to, will Trump really go to Congress and try to get this passed? Will anybody in Congress, now sensing the midterms are coming up, would anybody actually pass the kind of legislation he might bring forward? I think the answer is he'll never bring it forward. I mean, he'll be crushed by the, I think he will not bring it to Congress. And here's the thing, we're supposed to be decoupling with China on trade. Trump is right now selling America under the bus because he's going to bring it all back because he'll get the tariffs with China back down to 10 or 20%, whatever. And then they'll still be doing the TikTok thing, which has been illegally kept open, which, by the way, if they just went to Congress and said, we want to leave it open, he just has it illegally open. Whether you like it or don't like it, it's open. So these are all things that should have been handled through law. None of them are. Trump just goes around changing tariffs every day, lower, higher. I can't, by the way, we're doing a show. I don't even want to say what they really are because I can't keep up myself. A man who ingests the news from around the world can't keep up. How can any normal person do it?
Well, the issue is there's a big problem too, and I know we're heading toward the end of the program here, but Keith Ellison, or not Keith Ellison, but Ellison, the guy is buying up everything. They're buying up TikTok. They're buying up TV stations now. Again, this is the problem we have where one conglomerate, one person, one billionaire is buying up all these entities. And that's why there's no competition. How is that even free market capitalism? It's not. These guys are socialists and they say spout all this stuff about free market capitalism. They're buying up everything. They're monopolies. It's a joke. That's why this country, it's unfortunate, Steve, to say this, but it's a joke. This country is so corrupt. It's a total joke. We make fun of these countries like Venezuela. We're just as bad, if not worse than them. They just do it in different ways.
Well, being as bad as Venezuela, it might be a little, but
it's a little bit of a stretch. But you know what I'm saying, Steve. It's pretty bad here. Come on.
We are living through a period of what I would call fascism.
Right.
And just so people know, I'm not trying to insult the president by saying this is fascism. Fascism, the strict definition, is that the private companies like Oracle get to make whatever they want, except when the president says to like U.S. Steel, no, you can't lay off those workers, even though, or you can't close down that plant. Right? So the old thing about Mussolini and fascism was Italians put up with it and because he made the trains run on time. Famous quote, right? Then they hung him by his toes in a square. Now, that's not going to happen, but people are going to turn on this. And what's going to happen with Scott Bessent and the president, because Scott Bessent now is all in. Like these people have now been around too long. If Marco Rubio had any common sense today, he would resign and run for president. Because he's actually common sense wise trying to do tough things. But he could just say if I advised him, I'd say, listen, you can beat the president because you failed once, but we know who you are. You're doing a half decent job. Don't okay any more crazy stuff from president. But just resign, say it's a family thing, and then get organized and run. Because by the time it comes around again, people like J.D. Vance can never get off the wagon, right? Right. They can't get off the Trump wagon. Even though, think about it, all these people who work for him hate him. Yeah. Vance hates him. Yeah. He said it publicly, like that's a clown. Now he loves him. But we know he really hates him. Right? Tucker Carlson hates him. Yeah, but we have you don't have any videotape of me changing my mind about it. If Trump does something good, I say good. Most stuff now is pretty bad. Trade and whatever. Raising the cost for middle class people forever. Right? By having these kind of tariffs with our allies on aluminum. You want to buy an F-150, it's made out of aluminum, folks. Right. It's cost off. Or either that or Ford.
But with the government shutdown, again, it doesn't seem like it's getting fixed anytime soon. If this keeps going on for another month or so, I mean, the economy's already really in. Stay again, Steve.
Something will break. I don't know what. You don't even know what. Something will break.
Well, the economy's still already in shambles. If people keep missing if their health insurance goes sky high, food stamps are gone. People can't pay for stuff in the supermarket in general because inflation is still going up. Is this the start of the economy really collapsing? And, it's 2008. Like, we're not trying to fearmonger, but it's
no, I think it's more like the fact that here's the deal, folks. Scott Bessent knows, the president knows, the people in power know we can never have a recession, a real recession, a normal recession, because debt to GDP would be 9% and your mortgage rates to get a new mortgage would be 9%, not 6%. Like they know this is the real problem. The real problem is sort of like Russia can't stop the war. A third of what they're doing in their whole economy or more is now the war. They can't do peace. Why is Trump even trying? They have to get more people killed. They have to build more tanks. They have to put up more stuff because they have no economy. We as Americans cannot have a recession. We can't. recessions, folks, are normal. They used to happen every 3 or 4 years. They were inventory led, and you cut down some inventory. Now we can't have it. But here's the thing: we can only have the really rich people spend more on Hermes ties or whatever they do, right? Or boats, and the young people combined with the middle class people heading down a can't keep up with inflation, can't keep up with their wages and so forth. It can only because there's a lot more people in that middle class than the really rich. So it can only go on so much till we really have the problem. And the problem, my estimation, will be interest rates really rise. Even when you think inflation's come not hit 10%, but it's
Is
like
this
two or
going to
three.
be like the 1970s then? Or,
Yes.
wow, that's
And,
really scary.
and the real thing could be the similar thing. Everybody thinks this is the reason we haven't had some of these real problems that oil has come down since 2008, roughly, when it hit whenever it hit $124 a barrel. We've been in a 17-year bear market of the price of oil going down. That's not going on forever. And
Yeah.
when that turns, whatever that turns, oils and everything, plastics, tires,
Yeah.
when that turns, that's when we have the recession. We may not have the spike one day because we paid off Qatar and Saudi Arabia to make sure they pump as much as they can, but that doesn't matter. Things happen on an international basis. When Ukraine takes out a real facility with 1,000-pound bomb that they get, either they make or we give it to them, through all things will be in reverse.
Well, Steve, is that why there's a push now to go into Venezuela? Because Venezuela, again, Trump talked about this. We went into Iraq for the oil. Venezuela has the most oil, more oil than any of those Saudi Arabian countries. Is that what the push is? Yeah, you want to create a democracy, get rid of the socialism, but it's really an oil play.
Mostly things are about oil. When people,
Yeah.
when you get down to it. Now, I'm not saying that even Trump thinks this, but it's true. Venezuela has an enormous amount of oil. They bankrupted the company because they can't get it out of the ground because they're stupid, right? They're just idiots. It's there. Now, is it heavy oil? Does it have to be processed more? It certainly is. But there's so much of it. It's right there. Like there it is. Like, by the way, from where I'm sitting, it's right over there, like 100 miles. It's like there. Like, what are you kidding me? Right now, Venezuela wants to attack Guyana because they now have oil, which is no one even knows where that country is. It's next to Venezuela, folks. But the whole thing is bizarre. But these things don't happen the way you expect them to. When you least expect it, oil prices go up $20 a barrel after 18 years, and that's the end. Like that's the end.
I know we're running out of time, Steve, and I want to get this last point off because you brought up a lot of good things in the last couple segments that we just spoke about. But I want to talk about this when we talk about the 1970s. But this wasn't probably a big thing in the 70s, but this is a big thing that's going on now. And with the auto loan issue, there's a lot of the repossession with that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is an unbelievable situation where auto repossessions are hitting past the 2008 disaster.
Yeah,
people bought cars they couldn't afford. Illegal aliens are just leaving them on the side of the streets. They're heading back to Mexico. But all this together is a complete disaster because the price of a car is just too much.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as
is the auto loan issue, Steve, the housing crisis of 2008, is that what it's equivalent to right now? Is that what we're seeing, or
no, it's smaller, way smaller. But the problem is what auto companies did after the disaster, they made people not loan to you for more than 5 years. But that became in order to get more people in, because unfortunately, if you're listening, don't go into an auto dealership and the first thing they're going to say is, how much do you want to pay per month? And you never answer that question. That's the question they say, because then they can make it an 8-year loan and you pay $400 a month and you're like, wow, but now you're always underwater with your car. That's what happened, by the way. The loan terms went out. Someone says, oh, I could get a Mercedes if I get an 8-year loan. But then they lost their job and they have this Mercedes, maybe not the big one, maybe the 230, whatever. But now they're underwater. But they're always underwater until they pay it off, till the end of the loan. Like they seem to be underwater. That's why you should never borrow one. Listen, the truth is no one should ever borrow to buy a car. It's a depreciating asset. Putting down 20% to buy a home is usually an appreciating asset. That's what I teach my kids. Don't borrow on depreciate, but it's a big problem, but it's not as big as homes. Yeah. It's not as big as homes, but it's a big problem. And you can see why the consumer, which is 70% of our economy, if it goes down to 67, we have a massive recession.
It does seem like the way we've been talking about the economy now, we'll end on this. is that we're headed towards a medieval times feudalism type of deal coming up in the next 5 to 10 years. Agree or disagree?
I don't know about feudalism. The day of reckoning is now here. It's too big to get around. I made a movie called Fixing America to tell you how we could get around it. But once in that movie, debt went to a certain level. Mathematically, it's not possible to not have a disaster in the next couple of years. It's not mathematics. It's not possible. We're going to
So
have a disaster.
everybody's going to get hurt. The people that are the
Everybody.
millionaires get hurt. The billionaires will still get hurt as well, or not really?
Not really.
But the millionaire people that are millionaires, these TikTok millionaires, these celebrities that are maybe 10, 20 million, they're all going to get hurt along with the middle class and the poor people as well.
Yeah. Unless
Okay.
you own a lot of commodities and oil.
Yeah.
You know, when stocks go down, commodity, look at the cycle. We're at the beginning of a major commodity cycle. It starts with gold, goes to palladium, it'll come with oil, copper's hitting a high. These things will happen, but most people don't own commodities. They own whatever. They own like the latest quantum whatever thing, and they're like, wow. Or they just own ETFs and they don't even know what's in it, which is sad.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right,
God bless.
SteveLaffey.com. Steve, thanks so much. Always a pleasure.
Talk soon.